Thank you so much. You guys are fabulous. Keep up the good work. There are so many, and whoever is coming up with these phrases is fabulous. There's follow the money. There's we're not livestock. This one here is my favorite. Take your needles and shove them. Here's what's important today. You guys are here. This is a force like we've never seen here at the Capitol. You're making a big difference. It's public pressure that will count. Right now, there's too much investment in this. There's too much money to be made. There's too many powerful interests seeking their own. This is cronyism at its worst. And the public, your perspective, your worldview, your care for your own children, your love of your own children, you are the only ones who are capable of stopping this. I suggest today, before you get in your cars and drive for home, you go by everyone who is a sponsor or co-sponsor, stop by their office. Be as kind and courteous as you can be, and please ask them, don't support HB 3063. We need the public. Right now I'm in the super minority position in the Senate side that's 18 to 12. On the House side, it's 40 to 20. We're completely outnumbered. But in this crowd, we've got Democrats, we've got non-affiliateds, we've got independents, we've got Green Party, we have Republicans, we have people who love and care for their children. It's your job to storm this building and tell them to stop this overreach. And here's what's so cool. What is so very cool is you can do it. You're capable. You're here. You're already on fire. So let's go. Stop 3063. Give me 3 of those. Stop 3063. Stop 3063. Stop 3063. You are great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to invite Jessica Gomez up to the stage. She's the founder and CEO of Rogue Valley Micro Devices, a high-tech manufacturing company in Southern Oregon. She's who's committed to supporting the people in her community. Jessica ran Oregon State Senate District 3 in 2018 and serves on a number of boards and commissions.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, you guys are beautiful. What a fantastic turnout. I'm just so proud. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. I come from a long line of strong, independent Latina women who taught me that it was important to have a voice and taught me it's important to use that voice for the good. Now I'm an adult and I have a technology company, and so I have the opportunity to work with the brightest minds in science and technology, and I can tell you, we are not always right. Science is imperfect by its own nature. This is really tough because we've got a situation now where our democratic republic it's at a turning point, right? It was set up to protect the rights of the few against the will of the many. And now we continue to see these situations where that might be violated. When my parents moved to Oregon from New York, they came here because Oregon aligned with their value system. It's important what we put in our bodies. It's important. We agonize over access to organic foods, to non-GMO foods. We agonize whether or not to have natural birth or to try for a home birth. I had two. It's not without complications. When my daughter was born, she had to go to the hospital. She had a lung infection. 24 hours later, a nurse came in and said, hey, we would like to give your baby a Hep B vaccine. My husband and I didn't just say no. What did we say? Hell no! This is not in line with Oregon values. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself, of my family, and everyone else in Oregon that believes that our rights as parents should be protected. Thank you for being here.
Up next, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Lockwood. He's the spokesman for Senator Kim Thatcher, Senate Republican Whip Dennis Linthicum, and Rep. Bill Post. He's held leadership positions in nonprofits, completed for public policy fellowships in think tanks, and he sits on the National Board of Policy Advisors for the Heartland Institute, focusing on education and healthcare.
So it's amazing how many people were able to come out during the week. It's hard to bring your families so far from all over the state. We have people from Central Oregon. We have people from all over the state, the coast. So I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to Oregonians for Medical Freedom and the physicians and experts speaking out in support of vaccine safety here today at the Oregon Capitol. And I want to thank the members of the Oregon Legislature who have been loud, bold, and fearless in this fight against House Bill 3063. Also known as the Forcible Drug Injections Act. Particularly, Senate Republican Whip Dennis Linthicum and Senator Kim Thatcher have been on the front lines of this fight. I'm their spokesperson. I couldn't think of any lawmakers who would be better to work for and support in their pushback against really an out-of-control supermajority and our governor. I want us to take a moment, though. And stop. I want us to breathe and look around us right now. We are making history. America is watching us. We have been at the tip of the spear fighting back against this thing. I have had representatives and senators contact me from other states, from Minnesota, Maryland, and I come to you all today as a messenger. My name's Jonathan Lockwood. I've worked in public policy, as you know, they've already introduced. I had that written. I usually embrace, but I've worked inside the system and outside the system. And from what I've seen firsthand is how corrupt this system keeps people down, protects the status quo, and tries desperately to conceal the truth. But people across the nation on every level and from every walk of life, I think, are waking up. We're leading change, and we are leading a fight that shouldn't have to be fought for freedom. And before I get started, I want you to join me. Join me in a moment of silence for all of the people who have been silenced by their governments and all of the censored voices on social media. Join me in a moment of silence for the people who have been injured and all the people who are across the nation fighting the same evil we're fighting here today. Let's pause. Where there's a risk, there must be a choice. The government has absolutely no right to mandate liability-free products. Our legislators are trying to put corporate interests and drug profiteers ahead of the people they have been elected to represent. And a lot of people are trying to make this thing a lot more partisan than it is. You know, they get one Republican to join a bunch of Democrats and it's bipartisan. But you have a ton of Democrats out here with a bunch of people that have never been political a day in their life, and all of a sudden it's alt-vax. Not true. And as progressive Democrat Governor Jared Polis very recently said, The government has absolutely no right to mandate that you take a drug injection at the point of a gun. That's a Democrat. There's tremendous multi-partisan opposition to this bill. The will of the people is clear. Some have tried to marginalize people here today. Some have tried to say that we're just some cantankerous vocal minority. That's a lie. We're a part of the American majority who believes in vaccine safety, informed consent, and sound medical decisions being made in doctors' offices by patients and their physicians, not by unelected bureaucrats, politicians, and lobbyists. House Bill 3063 is a discriminatory law that will target at least 35,000 healthy children and discriminate against minorities and low-income families. We will not stand for the segregation or the false narrative that this bill somehow provides choice. It's anything but a choice. Throwing children out of school for not having every single drug injection that unelected bureaucrats say they must have is an injustice. And the proponents of this bill are on the wrong side of history. They have put themselves on a list of people who are putting profits ahead of people. They are putting themselves on a list of people who refuse to open their eyes. We're done. We will kill this bill. It will die, and we will win.
Thank you so much, Jonathan Lockwood. That was amazing. Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill! You know, I've been to a lot of rallies, and I have never seen it flow all the way over onto the park side like this. It's amazing. We have Dr. James Lyons Weiler, PhD. He is the founder and CEO of the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge, also known as IPAC, an active research scientist. He is the author of 3 books, one on Ebola, another on cures versus profits, and a third on environmental and genetic causes of autism. Please welcome him.
I'm really curious about this crowd because, you know, the next 30 days, I'm going to be in 6, and those 6 states, in those 6 states, I'm going to be meeting thousands of people just like you. But I'm really curious about who you are. So, 3 years ago I was at a rally, 2 years ago I was at a rally, it was all moms. Look around at the dads who are here. Give a hand to the feet and show up. This bill has awakened something in the people of Oregon that I want to hear from the Democrats. Democrats! I want to hear from the Republicans. There's your, that's not partisan politics. You know, I've worked very hard to try to understand myself as a scientist what's wrong with the vaccination program, what's wrong with the vaccines. And I'm happy to tell you that I am 100%, my institute, 100% behind Dr. Paul Thomas in the vaccinated versus unvaccinated study we're doing. It's too late. It's too late. Stop the study, okay? So I have a question for you. I look around this crowd, I see families, moms, dads, who are so well informed. Better informed than your legislators, better informed than your doctors. Are you informed? Do you consent? Are you informed? I can't hear you. Consent. Are you? Do you consent? Let him hear you.
Has worked in international, public, and private.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled to be here. What a fantastic crowd. So my message to the legislatures inside is if it's not broken, don't fix it. Just do nothing. 46 states have been doing this for 50 years. 10 cases of measles is not making the system broken. Just do nothing. So I'm here from New York, as Sarah said, and I've been watching what's been happening in New York, in Rockland County, and in New York City. And we have had power grabs that even outshine yours here in Oregon. So we have a county executive in Oregon who tried to put all unvaccinated children in a county of 300,000 people under house arrest. He declared that they couldn't go to the mall, they couldn't go to school, they couldn't go to synagogue, they couldn't go to any place where more than 10 people congregated. And you know what? The courts threw it out. They said he didn't have the right. And you know what? He appealed it, and he lost on appeal, and the appellate court told him, you can't appeal it to the highest court. And in New York City, the mayor, not to be outdone, and that county executive was a Republican. The mayor of New York City is a Democrat. The Democrat gave, through the Commissioner of Health, put out an order that said if you do not vaccinate your children or yourself, if you haven't had the MMR or you don't have documented immunity, if you don't do that within 48 hours, you are subject to criminal sanctions, including imprisonment. Unbelievable. And fortunately, a lawsuit was filed, and within a week, guess what? They took off criminal sanctions, and they took off 48 hours, and they said they're not really going to enforce it. That lawsuit is not over, but this level of overreach is unacceptable, intolerable. We're not going to put up with it. So I want to take us back right now just to first principles. I actually want to read you a section of the Declaration of Independence, which is why we're all here in this amazing country, right? They threatened assembly, they threatened religion, and that's not what our country is founded on. So I want to read you very briefly from the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, I'm going to add in women, are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men and women, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's what our founding fathers and our founding mothers had to say. So do you consent to compulsory vaccination with no exemptions? Do you consent to give up your religious and philosophical rights? Do you consent to put your child on the altar of vaccines, no matter the product? Do you consent that the state can dictate whatever's injected into you and your children? Do you consent to liability-free vaccines? Do you consent to remain silent about the harms that vaccines are causing to children? So will you rise up and throw out of office any legislator who would deprive you of your right to informed consent? Will you stick to this as long as it takes to get these folks out of office? And will you stand up for your rights as parents and human beings for prior, free, and informed consent to all medical interventions, including vaccines? And will we win? Yes, we will win. We will win this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary.
Because I think I was raised right. My parents told me that we were always supposed to protect the minority. Everybody's religious freedoms, that's what this country stood for. And most of all, I was supposed to learn my history so that I would not be doomed to repeat it. So let's just look at a piece of history, because we put 16 doctors on trial after Nazi Germany. Really the last 16. The last 16 that thought it was okay because every other doctor was doing it. Because every government official said it was okay. Well, they still went on trial, and the argument that everybody else was doing it did not stand up. In fact, I remember my mom always saying, don't just do something because everybody else is doing it. Instead, do what's right. This is the Nuremberg Code for all the people in this building that have forgotten it. This is informed consent, the very first rule in the Nuremberg Code. Here we go. As soon as I can get all the pop-ups to stop. Here we go. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice, without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. If this law that is going to take away the right to send your children to the public school that your taxes are paying for, if this law keeps you from going to the private school that you are choosing, then what is that other than coercion? Continuing on. And should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the element of the subject matter, hold on, all right, subject matter involved, as to enable him to decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all conveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person, which may possibly come from the participation in the experiment. So there are people, when we used to say this 3 years ago, that would say, well, vaccines aren't an experiment, it's a medical procedure. Except, unfortunately, the work of Bobby Kennedy and myself has proved otherwise. As many of you know, we've won 2 lawsuits now against our health government agencies. One against the National Institute of Health, one against Health and Human Services, and we just settled a case with the FDA, which proved that they never tested a vaccine on women, even though they're recommending it for all pregnant women. So to all the news cameras out there and everybody that wants to report on the misinformation, what in the Nuremberg Code is misinformation? What are lawsuits is misinformation? In fact, I would have you try, I'm not making this easy. All right. I would want anyone to try and win lawsuits against government health agencies using misinformation. Try to do it. It doesn't happen. We are the truth. We are speaking the truth. We are representing the truth. So let's talk about the facts. Here are the facts. We have more babies dying on the first day of life in the United States of America than every other industrialized nation combined. Fact. We have more babies that die in the first year of life in the United States of America than every other industrialized nation. It's just been reported. You are 70% more likely to die in America before you reach the age of 18 than the 20 other richest nations in the world. And now, the third leading cause of death in America is hospitals themselves. Medical error, dying for reasons other than you entered the hospital for. Now, I've said that in interviews, and people will say, well, you're saying that vaccines cause that? And I say, well, there's a lot of science showing that it does. But even if that wasn't the case, here's my point. With the greatest destruction of health we've ever seen in our children, with the sickest generation of children our nation has ever seen, why should I be forced to listen to a single word the health departments that are in charge of that decline have created? They want to tell us how much money they've saved America by stopping a rash that lasts for 4 days. They want to tell us how much they've saved America for stopping diarrhea in our babies for 3 days. What they don't want to talk about is the rise in chronic illness like we have never seen on this planet. From 12.8% chronic illness in the 1980s, when we were only giving 10 vaccines to our children, to now 54% of America's children have a chronic illness. Neurological disorders skyrocketing. How about all of the children that are on Humira? How about the 1 in 4 children that's on a drug the rest of their lives? Who's paying for that? Who's paying for the encephalopathy, the childhood cancer that's increased 33%, the diabetes, the multiple sclerosis, the ADD, the ADHD, and the list goes on and on. The sickest generation of children we have ever seen in this country. And yet in this building, there are politicians that will say that we hand our bodies over to the pharmaceutical industry. We will not, sorry, full stop, not be doing anything that involves the pharmaceutical industry, especially about when we're talking about the only product the pharmaceutical industry makes that they cannot be sued for. How does that make sense to anyone? I see the news cameras around here. How does that make sense, folks? Who trusts the pharmaceutical industry so implicitly that you would give them a free ride on any product? They didn't get a free ride on Johnson & Johnson's talcum powder, but they still poisoned our children with asbestos and just paid out $3 billion for having lied about it for 50 years. Luckily we knew. Luckily we found out. Luckily we could sue. How about a Vioxx, made by Merck, that beautiful company that makes most of your childhood vaccines? When we sued Vioxx for killing over 100,000 people, many say more like 500,000 people, what do we discover? Internal memos by Merck saying, don't worry about those doctors that are questioning the safety of Vioxx. We will hunt them down and destroy them where they live. Why do we know we got that internal email? Because we could sue. And yet these politicians are listening to they're listening to companies like Merck that think that you like that. They don't care that they knew their drug would cause heart attacks. They want to make money. They know they can push it through. But still, we could sue, but not vaccines. And now this building, in this beautiful state of Oregon, that my entire childhood I would visit. We would come here camping and swimming in your beautiful clean air, and your trees, and your nature, and your water. I came from Colorado, another beautiful state, because nature was important to my family. What we are, what God created, this beautiful resource of Oregon. Are we really going to sell it to pharma? No, we are not. When I think about those doctors in the Nuremberg trials, and I think about the lawsuits we're now winning, we've got 3 whistleblowers, folks. 3 now. Dr. William Thompson. Let's hear it for Dr. William Thompson. Dr. William Thompson, who still works for the CDC, who's still protected by whistleblower status, who still says we committed scientific fraud in the MMR autism study, and we saw a causal relationship between the MMR vaccine and autism. Full stop. I want to bring up the second one. Now, Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, mentioned before, the state's leading witness against autism families. 5,000 cases in vaccine court. We've taken liability away from the industry. We put it on Health and Human Services. Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, the world's leading neurologist, the greatest specialist on autism, was used to defeat the families and say that vaccines don't cause autism. They used his line, and we've heard it ad nauseum. We've heard it in this building. There is no mechanism by which a vaccine causes autism. Only one problem. Only one problem now. Dr. Andrew Zimmerman has stepped forward and he's put forward against an affidavit against the Department of Justice. And what is he saying? They've lied. They've lied to you. Your government has lied to you. The Department of Justice has lied to you. How? Because I saw a case in the middle of that proceeding of 5,000 families. I witnessed a child that regressed into autism before my eyes. It happened to one of my colleagues I was working with. And we studied that child and we found it. We found the connection. A vaccine can cause autism if there's an underlying mitochondrial disorder. So he went to the Department of Justice and told them, in this case that we're now, I have discovered that this was caused by vaccines, and here is the mechanism. What did the Department of Justice do? The lawyers that you fund with your taxpayer money that are supposed to be protecting consumers, not protecting industries, they fired Dr. Andrew Zimmerman that night. They asked him to come to court again. But even worse, in the case we're going to decide for all of those microphone, seriously. In all of they ended up using his previous quote. When you read those hearings, they say Dr. Andrew Zimmerman is not here leading authority on this issue, and he has said that there is no mechanism by which a vaccine causes autism. That is fraud committed by your government agencies, the Department of Justice and Health and Human Services. This is what Bobby Kennedy is going to sue their balls off. They have lied to you. They have poisoned you. And now the authorities are asking to continue the poisoning and the destruction in the face of whistleblowers, in the face of witnesses. And by the way, if you're going to call us the anti-vaccine community, let's figure out who that is. And everyone that has a vaccine-injured child now an ex-vaxxer, please raise your hand. Can everyone that has a vaccine-injured child stop vaccinating and has the other kids that are the healthiest they've ever seen, please raise your hand. There you go, folks. There's the vax versus unvax study that's being done all over this country. And now will everybody that is not vaccinating their child because they listened to the eyewitness testimony of millions of people around the world that said my child was injured by a vaccine, please raise your hand now. That is this movement. That is what's growing across this country. That is who we are. This is the face of America. This is the face of a healthy, vibrant, beautiful America. We will not consent. We will not let this building take that from us. We now know the science. And any doctor that wants to step up here now and debate me, I'll do it immediately. Bring your science. Every study done in the world that has compared vaccinated children to completely unvaccinated children has shown that the vaccinated children are just plain sicker. I hate to report that. I worked on the Doctor's Television Show. I believe in medicine. It's true. study out of Mississippi by Mawson, 4 times the rate of autism amongst the vaccinated, 5 times the rate of neurological disorders, 30 times the rate of allergic rhinitis, and the list goes on and on and on. We know that our unvaccinated children are just plain healthier. I'm sorry to admit it. I'm sorry that you're angry at us, that we didn't listen, that we didn't just hand our kids over. I'm sorry that your children have eczema. I'm sorry that they have asthma. I'm sorry that they have diabetes. I'm sorry that they're dying of childhood leukemia. Sorry for all of the medical establishment that lied to you. But you need to know this now. If you do not stand with us now, you're next. Every adult is next. Watch California. Watch New York, the first adult mandate we have seen. This is coming for all of us. This is not about 2% of the unvaccinated children in Oregon. This is not about 2% of the unvaccinated children in America. This is about 320 million Americans being lined up on a yearly basis for vaccines that wear off every couple of years and cause autoimmune issues like we have never seen in this country. This is about an indentured society to the most corrupt industry the world has ever seen. But we will not let that happen. We stand today because that will not happen. We stand today for health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom now, health now, freedom. That's what this is about. Thank you for turning out. We are going to win this. The world is changing because of every single one of you. Take that!
Wow. Thank you, Dell. Everybody. And for all the speakers who spoke today to stand up for you and to stand up for Oregon, who drove miles and hours and Hello? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. But anyway, so for all of our speakers that came to help Oregon, to speak out for you, to defend our rights, give everybody a big hand, guys. All right. So I just want to give a few reminders here and kind of just give you some direction in terms of what's going on. So, you know, as we've talked about, we have a big day tomorrow, guys. They've scheduled this bill for a hearing tomorrow morning at 8:30, all right? That came out on Monday. That came out yesterday. So we need as many of you here as you can to be here tomorrow at 8:30 to provide your testimony and to show the legislators in this building that you want them to vote no on this bill and you will not consent. Okay? And so what's so important here is your voice in this movement and your relationship with your legislators. So again, if you want, we have a way to connect you directly to your legislators and for you to get in-time updates on this bill. If you text that word rally again to 70375, that'll put you directly in touch with your legislators and also put you on our list so we can give you real-time updates on this bill. Next, I have a couple just housekeeping items. So we do encourage you to come into the building respectfully and seek out who your legislator is and work to schedule